He acts single, but these signs reveal he's married. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt that inexplicable restlessness when something just doesn't close? When you're getting involved with someone who seems perfect, but an inner voice whispers that something is wrong? I was living exactly that. 6 months of intense conversations, passionate encounters, whispered promises, until the day I saw the clear mark of a ring on his finger. I wasn't using it at that time, but the lighter skin betrayed years of continuous use. The impact wasn't just discovering the lie, it was realizing that all the signs were there, in front of me, screaming the truth, but I didn't know how to decipher them. Carl Jung revealed that our unconscious never lies completely. Even when we try to hide a truth, our behavior betrays us. And there is a specific pattern of psychological signals that married men emit, even though they are masters of dissimulation. They are automatic marks, involuntary behaviors that denounce what words try to hide. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 8 foolproof signs you need to know about. After that, she will never be deceived again. 1. The ghost hour. There is an unmistakable temporal pattern in the behavior of those who live a double life. Jung observed that our psyche creates automatic routines as protection and organization mechanisms. When someone needs to divide time between 2 realities, very specific time windows of availability arise. You notice that conversations always take place at the same times, during work hours, at lunchtime, or in that mysterious break between 6 and 8 at night. After that, absolute silence. The most telling thing is not just when it appears, but when it disappears. Nights are a black hole of communication. Entire weekends evaporate without convincing explanation. Long holidays turn into deserts of absence. When you question, the justifications sound vague and generic. Extra work, unavoidable family commitments, recurring technical problems with the cell phone. The inconsistency of these excuses forms a revealing psychological mosaic. Jung understood that lying requires constant psychic energy. Therefore, people living double lives create rigid time structures as a way to manage internal chaos. This temporal rigidity is not a conscious choice. It is a need for emotional survival. When you try to break this pattern by suggesting a date outside the usual hours, you notice disproportionate resistance. It's not a lack of desire to see you, but a real impossibility of fitting you into another time slot already occupied. The Jungian shadow manifests itself in these inexplicable voids. What he doesn't say about where he is and with whom he reveals more than 1,000 words. Pay attention to the mathematical regularity of these disappearances. If every Thursday night he is incommunicado, if Sunday morning never answers, if national holidays represent total blackouts of attendance, you are facing a shared calendar. These temporal black holes are not chaotic coincidences. They are spaces reserved for another life, another commitment, another person who has chronological priority over you. Time never lies, even when words lie. 2. The digital quiet zone. The digital world has created a stage where our psyche reveals itself in ways that Jung never imagined. Social networks work as extensions of the collective unconscious, spaces where we build identities and maintain connections. When someone keeps you completely isolated from this dimension, it is not by chance. It is a strategy of psychological compartmentalization. You realize that it doesn't exist on any of his social networks. There are no photos together, no public comments, no digital acknowledgement of their existence. This invisibility does not happen due to personal preference for privacy. It happens because digital existence leaves permanent traces. A truly single man may be discreet, but he doesn't turn you into a complete ghost. The difference is in the intensity of the erasure. He posts photos of trips, moments with friends, even his dog, but you never show up. When they are together, the cell phone disappears. No casual selfies, no spontaneous records. Every moment with you happens in an absolute documentary vacuum. Jung was talking about personas, social masks that we use in different contexts. In the digital world, these personas take on a life of their own through carefully curated profiles. When someone systematically excludes you from this curatorship, they are protecting another persona that cannot coexist with their presence. His social networks show a life that doesn't include you because including you would destroy the narrative he maintains for another audience. Also, observe the behavior with the device when you are together. He turns the screen down obsessively. Notifications are silenced. Messages are read at a glance with fleeting expressions. If you approach when he is fiddling with his cell phone, you notice a reflective movement of screen protection. It's not digital security paranoia. It's fear that two worlds will collide. The technology that is supposed to connect people is being used to keep them apart. This calculated digital silence does not protect privacy, protects secrets. If you want to understand why a man acts single while hiding an entire double life, and how to break free from the psychological trap that pulls you into these situations, the Jung method is fixed in the first comment. 3. The forbidden territory. The physical geography of a relationship reveals truths that words can hide. Jung observed that our personal space carries deep symbolisms about identity and belonging. When someone systematically prevents you from knowing their intimate spaces, they are protecting more than privacy. They are hiding evidence of another life. You never set foot in his house. All the excuses for this sound reasonable in isolation. Endless renovation, plumbing problem, temporary mess. But when months turn into years and the invitation never arrives, the pattern becomes obvious. The meetings always take place in neutral territory. Hotels become the default setting. Restaurants are strategically located far from where he lives or works. If you suggest stopping by his house even quickly, you notice visceral anxiety in the reaction. It's not shyness or domestic disorganization. It's a real impossibility of taking you to a space that belongs to someone else. The house is not his alone, so you cannot inhabit it even symbolically. Also notice the neighborhoods he avoids. There are entire geographical zones that function as no-go areas. When you mention a specific place, it changes the subject or suggests distant alternatives. These vetoed territories often coincide with where he actually lives his main life. Supermarkets close to home, neighborhood gyms, corner restaurants, all places where casual encounters with acquaintances would be inevitable. Human territoriality is not just instinctual, it is psychologically charged with meaning. Allowing someone into your intimate space means integrating them into your real life. When this integration never happens, when you remain eternally in transit between rented and temporary spaces, you are being kept in a parallel dimension that cannot touch the main reality of it. This geographical exclusion is not circumstantial. It is designed to ensure that no two lives ever physically cross paths in the same territory. 4. The stories without a past. The personal narrative we build about ourselves reveals a lot about our inner truth. Jung understood that integrating past, present and future into a coherent story is essential for healthy identity. When you realize that you know very little about his real life, it's not because he values living in the present. It is because revealing the past means risking contradictions in the present. Conversations always gravitate around philosophical abstractions, momentary feelings, vague plans. But concrete details about his personal history remain hazy. You don't know exactly where he studied, what his childhood was like, who his longtime friends are. Names of close people are never mentioned. When you ask direct questions about family, The answers sound generic and evasive. There are no specific anecdotes, no vivid memories shared, that natural repertoire that single people often reveal organically over time. It's as if his life began exactly when you met. This selective amnesia is not accidental. Telling real stories means mentioning real people who are part of current life. It means taking a risk that you ask to meet these friends, to appear at social events, to integrate yourself into the circle that knows the truth. That is why the past remains abstract. The less you know about his concrete life, the less you can check, question, or insert yourself. Also notice how he doesn't talk when you tell your own stories involving other people. He doesn't show genuine curiosity about his friends, his family, his social world. It's not because he's self-centered. It's because real interest in his social world would create reciprocity. You would naturally ask to know his world, and this is exactly what needs to be avoided. True relationships are built on shared stories and worlds that blend together. When someone keeps you in a hermetic bubble with no past and no connections, you're not building intimacy. She is being kept in emotional quarantine. 5. The wardrobe divided. Physical appearance carries deep psychological symbolism about identity and social roles. Jung studied how we change our external presentation according to the social context. When one lives a double life, this chameleonic transformation becomes a practical necessity. You start noticing small but disturbing inconsistencies. He arrives wearing a ring and quickly takes it off, leaving a clear mark on his finger, or it appears with a different perfume smell than usual. Clothes vary drastically depending on where they come from before meeting you. The tan line where a ring should be is particularly telling. It doesn't form in weeks. It requires months or years of continuous use. When you point it out, it makes up stories about old rings, stored family objects. But the geometry of the brand does not lie. It is the exact shape of a marriage ring, on the specific finger that symbolizes commitment. This involuntary physical detail betrays truths that words try to cover up. Also notice personal objects that appear and disappear. A visibly full wallet, but that he never opens in front of you. 2 cell phones without convincing explanation. Extra keys that he keeps with excessive care. These fragmented objects suggest physically compartmentalized life. Each object belongs to a different context, and mixing them up means risking separate worlds colliding. Obsessive care with physical evidence also manifests itself after encounters. He checks clothes thoroughly, worried about strands of hair, traces of perfume, any trace you might leave. It's not care about personal appearance, it's fear of being discovered. Truly single people don't experience this constant paranoia about physical traces of romantic encounters. The compulsive need to erase your material existence from his life reveals that there is someone inspecting these same clothes, asking questions, looking for the very signs he desperately tries to eliminate. Your body may be with it temporarily, but the objects it carries belong to another territory, another life that you cannot contaminate. 6. Calculated intimacy. The emotional depth of a connection reveals itself not only in what is said, but mainly in what remains consistently avoided. Jung explored how true intimacy requires authentic vulnerability, the ability to be seen completely without masks. When someone keeps you in a carefully demarcated zone of proximity, it's not fear of abstract commitment. It is a concrete impossibility to let you penetrate layers that would reveal the truth. The conversations between you can be intense, even philosophical, but they always dance around forbidden territory, concrete future, integration of lives, shared planning. There is an invisible ceiling of intimacy that is never crossed. You feel real emotional closeness, but it doesn't translate into the practical actions that characterize progressive relationships. He doesn't introduce you as a girlfriend. There is no clear definition of what you are. When you try to have conversations about exclusivity or the future, you notice how slippery it becomes, turning everything into philosophical abstractions about free love or authentic connections that transcend social labels. This resistance to naming the relationship is not emotional maturity or spiritual evolution. It is a practical necessity to keep you in an ambiguous category that does not threaten pre-existing commitments. Defined relationships create legitimate expectations. Extended ambiguity serves those who need always available exit ports. You may even receive intense emotional statements, but these words never materialize in real construction of a shared life. Notice how practical decisions never include you. He buys a car without consulting his opinion, changed jobs without considering how it affects you. He makes solo vacation plans. It's not because you value independence, it's because you're not part of the real considerations in his life. There is a hermetic separation between what he feels for you and how he actually organizes his existence. True intimacy integrates emotion and practicality. When someone keeps you eternally in the field of the sentimental without ever including it in the territory of the concrete, you inhabit only his fantasy, never reality. 7. The invisible weekends. Free time reveals real priorities much more than mandatory schedules. Jung understood that moments of freedom are when our true nature emerges without the masks required by social obligations. When someone systematically disappears exactly in the periods when free people usually meet, the message is crystal clear. These moments already belong to someone else. You notice that it's available during the week, especially during business hours, but weekends are forbidden territory. Saturdays and Sundays turn into black holes of absence. The excuses for this initially sound plausible. Work on weekends, family commitments that cannot be postponed, hobbies that require full-day dedication. But when you really look at it, you realize that these justifications are never specific. He doesn't say exactly which family member is visiting or which urgent project demands presence in Saturday's empty office. Vagueness is not a lack of attention to detail. It is an impossibility of inventing very specific lies that could be later verified. Long holidays are even more telling. Christmas, New Year's, important birthdays, all these milestones that people in real relationships share naturally become total exclusion zones. He disappears weeks before, reappearing only when the festive period ends. There is no invitation to participate. There is no discussion about how to spend these dates together. You simply don't exist in the dimension of his life where celebrations take place. The temporal architecture of this absence follows the pattern of those who maintain a conventional domestic life. Weekends are when families have meals together, take care of the house, participate in social events as a couple. Holidays are when marital obligations intensify. He's not avoiding you out of preference. He's fulfilling another life schedule. When Monday rolls around and he resurfaces with vague stories about how the weekend went, you're only getting edited fragments of a narrative that can't be told completely. The calendar doesn't lie about real priorities, even when every other word does. 8. The future that never comes. The ability to project a shared future is an essential characteristic of genuine relationships. Jung observed that healthy human beings naturally plan, dream, and construct temporal perspectives that include important people. When someone keeps you eternally trapped in a present with no horizon, it's not because they value living in the moment. It is because real future with you is concrete impossibility. Every time you mention more distant planes, you notice how he deftly veers into the here and now, turning his legitimate need for perspective into a neurotic attachment to tomorrow. This forced presenteeism sounds spiritually evolved on the surface. He talks about enjoying every moment, not getting caught up in expectations, flowing with what life brings. But underneath this convenient philosophy is simply the inability to include you in plans that already exist. They just aren't up to you. He has plans for the future. He just can't reveal them, because these plans involve continuing the life he already lives with someone else. When you try to have conversations about moving in together eventually, traveling next year, meeting each other's families, you encounter emotional resistance disguised as wisdom. He says that true relationships don't need these social milestones, that real love transcends conventions. But notice that this transcendence only applies to you. His practical life continues to follow all social conventions, just somewhere else, with another person. Notice how he never includes you in future decisions, even small ones. It doesn't ask your opinion on where he should vacation the following year. It doesn't consider your calendar when making medium-term professional plans. It doesn't question whether moving to another city would affect you. You simply don't exist in the equations through which it calculates your future. Real relationships are built on the ability to imagine shared tomorrows. When someone keeps you trapped in an eternal present, offering you emotional intensity but never temporal continuity, you're not living too deep a romance for labels. It is being kept as a convenient parenthesis in a story whose main plot is already written, starring someone else, following a script that cannot be changed. Their future already exists, you're just not part of it.